I am giving away an entire master set of Paldean Fates to one lucky subscriber. And if you want to win, all you have to do is make sure you're subscribed to the channel and then leave a like and a comment on this video here. Come back on February 9th. That is where we will announce the winner at the beginning of the video. Good luck. This is it. This is the age, the year of Fanny. That sounds so dumb. The Fanny drip is live. What is going on, everybody? We are on day 32. Day 32 of consistent uploads in the year of Fanny. I don't know why it's the year of Fanny. We're just calling it. Actually, I'm just calling it the year of Fanny. You don't have to call it that. I don't know why I even said that. But I wanted to let everybody know we do have a merch store. It is now officially live. You can go to fanmerch.com. I can't believe this. Do not feel obligated to order anything. Obviously, do not even feel obligated to visit the website. I am creating merch, and this is kind of something that I had the idea of in the middle of December. And the reason I wanted to do it is because we did a charity stream near the end of December, giving back, and we raised a lot of money for a young boy who was going through T-cell lymphoma. And it feels good to make a difference, and that's something that is really, really important to me. I've talked about it so much on this channel, and I believe in large numbers together, small amounts compiled in large numbers can make a huge difference, and that's what we are. We're a large number, and if we do small things here and there, we can really make a difference in this community, in this world, and that's what this is all about. So I figured, okay, well, what better way can I do this than figure out ways to add additional revenue? So the main thing was adding additional revenue, so that way I could do more giveaways, give back more, and I thought, okay, well, it's not that easy to just grow my YouTube channel, right? Like, that's not the easiest thing. So what else can I do? And I figured, okay, well, let's do member giveaways. We'll try that a little bit, and we'll try merch. So this is live on the website. So if you want to support the channel, if you want to support what we're trying to do, fanmerch.com is officially opened. There's a bunch of different designs on here. There's going to be a new drop every single Sunday night for the entirety of the year. We're going to see this thing through completely. We've got a Holy Buckets zip hoodie right here. There's different colors for everything, different sizes. I am wearing the Danny Phantom logo hoodie right now. There's a Holy Buckets hoodie. There's an I'm a Fanny zip hoodie. There's a bunch of different things. There's things for little fannies out there. There's pins and buttons. There's waffle beanies. There's fanny flops. Oh, who doesn't want a good pair of fanny flops? This is my fanny pack as a tote. That's pretty cool. But we're going to add new stuff every single Sunday. So check it out if you want. I'll leave a link in the description down below. Like I said, by no means should you feel obligated. But this is another way that we can just give back, do more, we're going to put everything back into the channel. So if you are so inclined to support the channel more, this is live, and this is a way that you can do it. You can rock a Holy Buckets bucket hat, wear it out to card party. We'll hang out together. It'll be a lot of fun. So enough selling out. That was my sellout spiel. I'm going to flip you guys around so you can see my long hair. And we can talk about today's video, because today's video I'm really, really excited about. I had this idea when I was laying down getting ready for bed, and that's when I do my best thinking, apparently, is when I'm unable to fall asleep because I'm thinking about Pokemon, because everybody thinks about Pokemon all the time, right? Like, that's not just me. So I was thinking about what I can talk about, and I really want to focus on providing videos, providing content. We talk about the year of Fanny and how I'm trying to push out videos every day, but I don't want them just to be any video. I don't want to just record for the sake of recording. I want it to be informational. I want it to be good stuff that you guys can actually utilize, good stuff that you can actually use. And I started thinking to myself, we don't really talk about reprints that much, because reprints just aren't really going to, we don't need them, right? We don't really need them because the Scarlet and Violet era is readily available just about everything. And you can argue 151, and I can get behind that argument. I do believe more 151 will be coming, but this video will hopefully give you a lot of clarity on what the expectation or what the likelihood is of Pokemon reprinting something. Now, it's important not to FOMO over anything. The things that I'm talking about here it's just for information. It's just so that way you can make the best decisions when it comes to spending your collection dollars. So what I did is I compiled a list of all the products that have been reprinted as far as my tenure goes when it comes to owning an online LGS. And this goes back to sets that came out around 2015. 2015 was really when I started diving into the online LGS scene. Between the years 2000 and 2015, there weren't really many reprints because there wasn't a need for reprints. Product was slowly moving off the shelves. product was slowly moving at distributors. Pokemon has this giant warehouse located in like Bellevue, Washington, and there are different locations that distributors can place orders if they run low on products. So like XY Evolutions, for example, the warehouse had plenty of XY Evolutions. So every time it went out of stock at a distributor, they were able to order more. It's not like Pokemon had to go out and reprint more XY Evolutions. They printed an absolute ton of that product. And there's probably a ton of products right now from the Scarlet and Violet era, all booster boxes, that are probably sitting still at the warehouse because it just isn't moving as fast. Demand isn't there. Now, I do think demand is still strong for Pokemon, but not anywhere near where it was during the Sword and Shield era because of everything that went on in the pandemic. So from the years 2000 to 2015, there really wasn't that many sets that needed reprints. Now, there were a couple sets that came out that were short printed, that were less printed, less available as far as supply and demand goes than other ones. You look at sets like Dark Explorers, for example, was a very good, very popular set during the black and white era that was much shorter printed than a lot of other sets. And because of that, you had booster box prices that really were a lot higher for Dark Explorers than the other black and white sets. Now, a lot of that has changed because time has gone on, but a set like Flashfire, for example, Flashfire was underprinted quite a bit compared to other sets. And I know there's other factors that drive a set like Flashfire, obviously being a Charizard set with secret rare Charizards, full art Charizards. That's going to be a driving force on something like Flashfire, but also the fact that it was less printed than a lot of other sets during the XY era as far as demand goes also really drove that booster box price up. We are talking specifically about booster boxes for the majority of this video. We will talk about one set that does have ETBs specifically, and that's Hidden Fates. So I'm going to flip you guys around so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, there's a sellout again. We're going to expand this. And we're basically going to go through all the sets that got reprinted over the last 5-6 years up until the Sword and Shield block. We're not going to talk about anything in the Sword and Shield block because you can you know about a lot of that stuff. I'm assuming a lot of people know about the Sword and Shield era, but they might not know about the reprint window and what Pokemon typically does prior to the Sword and Shield era. So we're going to start out and basically go with each set that got reprinted and how much time elapsed before that reprint actually happened and why that reprint actually happened. So Hidden Fates is the one that we're going to start with. And this was a good reminder for me on a lot of things because I thought that Hidden Fates got reprinted much later, much more time had elapsed than what had actually elapsed. That whole pandemic era was like a time warp that really makes you think like it feels like so much more time passed and that we were stuck in this era where we were kind of shut into our houses for so much longer than we were because it was so difficult to find Pokemon cards at the time. And Hidden Fates was one of those sets which really wasn't that old. You can see the release date, August 23rd, 2019. So you're about a year ahead of really when the pandemic and Pokemon really started taking off and things slowing down a little bit as far as supply goes. But original release date is August 23rd, 2019. And this was the first set where people really started scalping Pokemon product. It didn't happen prior to that. There was no really worry about people going to stores, going to big box stores, buying out inventory, and then selling them on the secondary market. That just didn't happen with Pokemon until the release of Hidden Fates. And that was really because it was the first experience of all these full art shinies that came in, all these OGs, all this nostalgia that it kind of generated for a lot of people. And because of that, prices really started exploding for Hidden Fates where it released and all of a sudden you had some issues where things were getting scalped, things were being sold above MSRP, retail arbitrage was going on. The reprint, and now there was a few reprints that happened between August 23rd, 2019 and that November 17th, 2020 date. A lot of them focused more on tins. There wasn't a lot of reprints as far as Elite Trainer boxes go, but because of the giant interest in Hidden Fates, Pokemon obviously planned on reprinting the Elite Trainer boxes sometime right around release date because it's going to take them a while to issue that reprint to get all the printers warmed up, the printers buzzing, and get that product packaged up and shipped out. The reprint announcement date for this set actually happened on November 17th, 2020. So I was able to go back and look through emails with my distributors and kind of determine when exactly this reprint date got communicated from Pokemon out to distributors who then relayed that information to store owners. So the time that elapsed from the original release date to the reprint announcement date was only 1 year and 3 months. I thought it was a lot longer than that, but 1 year and 3 months is actually not that bad. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because as we talk about the Sword and Shield block and as we move into Scarlet and Violet, where the 5th main series set into Scarlet and Violet comes out next month with Temporal Forces, if we're talking about the releases throughout the Sword and Shield Shield kind of being like this big boom for Pokemon, rewinding time back to the 90s when you had all these Wizards of the Coast fanboys that came out and bought a lot of product. 25 years from now, who knows where things are going to be, but that Sword and Shield era sets are going to be very, very interesting for nostalgia purposes. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these perform over the years, and why I think Sword and Shield era is actually a very, very strong era for the long term. Just don't expect it to jump up overnight, right? So the time that elapsed was 1 year and 3 months, but if you look at Sword and Shield, the last Sword and Shield main series set was reprinted, or was printed 1 year and 3 months ago, 1 year and 4 months ago now, because in November of 2022, we had the initial print run of Silver Tempest. So that's 1 year and 4 months old now as we enter February of 2024. So if you go back a set like Evolving Skies, for example, I see comments all the time, Pokemon needs to reprint Evolving Skies. It's very out of the norm for Pokemon to reprint a set that is that old, because if you look at when Evolving Skies printed originally, it was like August 27th or something of 2021. That is 2 years and 6 months old now. That is two and a half years old that Evolving Skies originally came out. Now, they did reprint it in December of 2021. That was the last time we saw a huge reprint as far as booster boxes go. There was a reprint of the ETBs, I think, last summer, but booster boxes haven't been reprinted since late in 2022, beginning of 2023. So about a year and 3 months after, about a year and 4 months after the original release date. So that's something that's very important as we continue to go through these lists. And also important why it's important not to FOMO. Like that's a big thing right here. If you're missing out on some of these booster boxes, or if you're putting your eggs in one basket, you never know what's going to happen with Pokemon. Again, this is just for information. Unified Minds was another one that kind of got reprinted, and these are smaller reprints that happened, but these happened during the middle of the pandemic, or at the beginning of the pandemic, late in 2020. We got a reprint of Unified Minds, we got a small reprint of Ultra Prism, we got a small reprint of Unbroken Bonds, those late era of the Sun and Moon sets that are so desirable right now. The big sets that we did not get as far as booster boxes go, we didn't get a Lost Thunder reprint, we didn't get a Team Up reprint, and we didn't get a Cosmic Eclipse reprint, but we did get a Unified Minds one. The original release date was August 2nd of 2019, and the reprint announcement date came in November of 2020. So the time that had elapsed on that reprint was 1 year and 4 months prior to the communication was delivered to distributors that there was going to be a limited reprint. And again, the tag team era was very popular, continues to be very popular today, but a very small reprint of Unified Minds came out, and Unbroken Bonds as well. Unbroken Bonds, the original release date for this one was May 3rd of 2019. This was a Charizard set, but it was also a tag team set. Later era of Sun and Moon, and what was interesting about the later era of Sun and Moon is that Pokemon was trying some new things because competitive play was starting to slow down a little bit. You had this big surge of competitive players at the beginning of Sun and Moon because a lot of people were kind of buying back into the hobby because of everything that was happening with Pokemon Go. So a lot more people were getting interested. And because of that, you had these massive print runs of Guardians Rising, massive print runs of Crimson Invasion and Burning Shadows, which is why it took so long and continues to take so long for those boxes to mature in price, because availability is so much higher. But as things slowed down in competitive play, and as things slowed down from a collector space, Pokemon slowed down their printing process a little bit. So sets like Unbroken Bonds, Unified Minds, even though they tried these tag team mechanics and tried introducing these secret rares of a gallery-like card that they had in Cosmic Eclipse, the popularity, the demand wasn't as big as it was at the beginning of the Sun and Moon era, so things were a little slower. So Pokemon was like, okay, well, let's reprint some of these in a smaller fashion so that way there's more availability for it. But a set like Unbroken Bonds, for example, time elapsed on this one was 1 year and 5 months prior to release date. So then you're looking at like a year and 5 months ago is about the time where Lost Origin came out, a little bit more than that. Ancient Origins was another set that got reprinted, and this one was really weird because this one happened right around the time of rotation when we knew Ancient Origins. Rudy covered this a lot on his channel when it originally happened. This set and Roaring Skies, which we'll touch on in just a minute here, but Roaring Skies really because of Shaman. Ancient Origins was kind of a head scratcher for a lot of different people. Ancient Origins had cards like Hoopa, but it wasn't like Hoopa was a super expensive card, so this one scratched a little bit of heads, and I think it was just underprinted a little bit from the original get-go. But if you look at the original release date for Ancient Origins, this was printed on August 12th of 2015, or it was released on August 12th of 2015. It got a reprint announcement date of March 12th, 2017. So the time that elapsed was 1 year and 7 months. It took 1 year and 7 months, and then Pokemon was like, okay, we're going to reprint Ancient Origins. We don't have any left in the warehouse. Whatever distributors have, that's it. So we're going to add more of this inventory out there So that way people have it. It might have been, again, like we talked about before, because Pokemon was gearing up for the release of Pokemon Go. They knew things were going to explode a little bit. They knew they wanted to have more availability for a lot of these cards, so they reprinted sets like Ancient Origins and then Roaring Skies. Roaring Skies was a little bit different of a beast, and this was very exciting for a lot of people because from a competitive standpoint, a card like Shaman EX had ballooned where a regular art was selling for $60 to $70, and Shaman EX was a card that you needed 4 copies of in basically every deck in competitive play. So if you look at a $60 to a $70 regular art Shaman EX, you're looking at about $250 of an investment for just 4 cards of your 60 card deck list. So just 4 cards alone made up of about $250 that you had to spend on those Shaman EXs. The original release date of Roaring Skies was May 6, 2015, and they printed a decent amount of it, and it was a very, very popular set with the Rayquaza. Like I said, with the Shaman, there was a lot of different cards in the set that were beneficial to competitive play, but they ran out of it. And again, with competitive play improving as far as numbers go, they decided to reprint it. And the reprint announcement date came on January 6th of 2017. And these really kind of shook up the market and shook up people because they had not really experienced reprints before. Like I said, from 2000 to 2015, there really weren't any reprints. It wasn't something that was very common. You had cards in the past that had done extremely well, like Uxie, for example, which was a $100 card in competitive play, but they weren't going out and reprinting a ton of them because the demand wasn't necessarily there. The supply was low, but it wasn't like they were doing anything that was gaining a ton of new competitive players. Whereas Roaring Skies brought in a lot new people, or whereas Pokemon Go brought in a lot of people again, and maybe this was just a situation where Pokemon was like, okay, we need to print more copies of this. The time elapsed in this one was 1 year and 8 months that had passed by before Pokemon announced the reprint date. Then we go back to Ultra Prism. Ultra Prism was the first set where it was communicated to me by distributors that this was a low print run. I remember this set coming out, and a lot of people were super hyped because the Cynthia came out, and a lot of people were excited about that, not to mention the gold cards that had returned with Solgaleo and Lunala. We hadn't seen something like that really since the beginning of the black and white era with Reshiram and Zekrom, but people were very excited about Ultra Prism from a competitive standpoint, and it just wasn't as available as a lot of people thought it was going to be. This was really the first set where Pokemon was like, okay, the Pokemon Go craze has died down a little bit. We're going to back off on our printing numbers, and we're going to produce a little bit less. I remember ordering product, trying to order product, booster boxes, a week after release, after we had gone through pretty much our entire stock of pre-orders, and one of my distributors emailed me back and said, hey, I'll give you what I have left, but that's all I've got, and there's none left in the warehouse, and as of right now, Pokemon has no plans to reprint. Well, they did eventually reprint, so the original release date came February 2nd, 2018, and it stayed just low stock pretty much for the entire time. Pokemon did not need to reprint it, so demand was starting to get there, but it wasn't to the point where Ultra Prism was jumping up and ballooning to $300-400 a box. It was staying right around MSRP or a little bit less until, again, that big wave happened with the pandemic and the boom happened and demand just really shot up. So the reprint announcement date didn't end up coming until July 13th, 2020. So you're looking at 2 years and 4 months after the original release date is when we got this reprint announcement, and it was very, very small. So again, if we talk about Roaring Skies, or if we talk about Evolving Skies from before, when did that release? Well, that released 2 years and 6 months ago, 2 years and 7 months ago. We have never had a set outside of Ultra Prism that is really reprinted in that window of time. So 2 years and 4 months is a long time to wait, but it's not the longest time. And this is a completely different theory right here. This is crazy. So this is Evolutions right here. Now, XY Evolutions was printed absolute mad. It was all over the place. So booster boxes are very expensive. You're looking at $800 for a booster box right now, which is absolutely insane because this is set that nobody really wanted when it originally came out. It was a lot of fun to open up a couple of booster boxes, but the fan base, the collector base, did not respond to it, I think, the way that Pokemon hoped or anticipated the response to be. And because of that, they had all these extra evolution packs, all these cards lying around that they were trying to figure out how to move. And because of that, Evolutions was shoved into every collection tin, every collection box, all over the place, and people were just not buying it. It didn't have any competitive cards in it. I mean, you could argue the Tool Drop Rattata, which helped out stop Garbodor, but that was pretty much it. There was nothing else. Maybe Starmie Break, but there was nothing in the set that really played competitively. So because of that, you were relying on just a collector base, which at the time Pokemon didn't really have. And yeah, Pokemon Go was starting up and a lot of people were getting excited about it, and that's what drove Evolutions at the beginning. But then as those people faded away, Pokemon had all this extra stock of stuff until the pandemic happened and people were like, okay, Evolutions, really cool. This is a much cheaper version of base set that I can kind of utilize to really start enjoying that nostalgia that I want to re-experience again. So the original date for Evolutions was November 2nd, 2016. Now this did not get reprinted in booster boxes, but this is one thing that you can kind of keep in mind moving forward that Pokemon has done with an incredibly popular set. Now, are they going to do something like this with Evolving Skies? Probably not, but they've done stuff in the past, and Evolutions is a perfect example of it. Now, this was not reprinted in the form of booster boxes, but this was repurposed at least. We're not going to call this necessarily a reprint. We're going to call this a repurpose of these Kanto Power Boxes, which came out in October of 2020 or November of 2020. And this is an interesting product because it was catered just to Evolutions, but it was catered to Evolutions 3 years and 10 months after the original release date of Evolutions. So Evolutions had been out, it's ran its course in competitive play. It is borderline an old set because we're basically done. I mean, we have skipped through an entire generation, right? Sun and Moon is done. Like we are in Sword and Shield, and all of a sudden Pokemon is like, okay, XY Evolutions, we're going to put a bunch of packs in these collection boxes. We're going to include a Mewtwo, we're going to include a Dragonite, we're going to include a Slowbro, and we're going to send them out. And these kinds of power boxes are going to contain only Evolutions booster packs, and people ate it up. People were very, very excited about it. The supply wasn't near enough to meet with demand, but it kept Evolutions down a little bit. It also could have contributed to pushing Evolutions as far as booster boxes go. So it wasn't necessarily a reprint as far as booster boxes go. The furthest one we've had that time has elapsed has been Ultra Prism. So if they were to reprint a set like Evolving Skies like right now, I mean, you would be looking at 2 years and 6 months after the original release date. Pokemon has never done that with a booster box before. However, they have done a repurpose or a redistribution of booster packs of Evolutions where it was a specific product that was given to a specific set 3 years and 10 months after the original release. So this is really the only instance that I could think of, and you can let me know in the comments section down below if you can think of something different where Pokemon has put more product out there for a set that was high in demand well after release date. But it's never happened where they're like, hey, we're going to reprint Heart Gold, Soul Silver, or people who might be screaming for I want more Cosmic Eclipse. You still get some Cosmic Eclipse here and there. Like they've still been putting packs out in some of these Galar mini tins and some of these Pokeballs and things like that, but it's not an entire product that's devoted to Cosmic Eclipse, and it's very outside of the norm for Pokemon to do something like that. So it's just food for thought as we continue to go down the line and as we continue to move forward and we look at Sword and Shield era, we look at Scarlet and Violet era. Okay, well, what does this reprint window look like? How long after a set releases does Pokemon typically issue a reprint if something is low stock? And really, the last set in Sword and Shield, which was Silver Tempest, which is still available at distribution right now at a marked up price, sets like Silver Tempest, sets like Lost Origin, because they did have a reprint, they did have a smaller reprint. I mean, those are still, I don't know if we're going to see a whole lot of reprints, and obviously Pokemon is going to do what they want to make money, and they're a business, so I get it, but historically, we have not really seen any booster box reprints later than 2 years and 4 months after a set has released, and we haven't seen any booster pack reprints of products specifically designed for a set, except for Evolutions that was more than 3 years and 10 months. Like it's just very interesting information to look at, and I hope you guys find it interesting. If you do, and if you did, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below. Leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a really long way for the algorithm. Share the channel. You know what to do. The Year of Fanny, yada yada yada. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for everything. I love you. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Until next time, peace.